Genji is looking to make a comeback in a huge way going forward, and if you can master how to make plays on Genji, you can literally hard carry so many team fights, dominating the opposition, getting key pickoffs. And in this video, I'm going to really tell you how to access that playmaking potential on Genji by breaking down some of my Grandmaster Genji footage, so you know what goes through my mind step by step when trying to make these really high impact plays on Genji. All this being said, real quickly, I'm going to tell you about GameLeap.com. If you want to become a Genji-God as quickly as possible, GameLeap.com has all the tools that you need to make that dream a reality. If you're serious about upping your Genji game, definitely come check it out. You won't regret it. So kicking it off on this first point, there's a lot of mistakes that I make that I really want to point out as well, because learning from mistakes is just as important as learning from some of the successful plays that you make as well. So something that really doesn't work out that well for me is I actually try to reflect multiple Mora orbs this fight and multiple fire strikes by the enemy Reinhardt. And the problem is the diva on my team is actually a top 500 diva, and she's doing her job, right? She's eating every single one of these fire strikes and these Mora orbs that are coming through. And because me and her didn't communicate, we didn't talk about it, I'm essentially getting no value out of my reflect. So that's something that's really important, and I actually talked to her later. She actually does a pretty good job at not eating any of my reflects that I want to get off, because idea is Genji, you want to reflect these things as much as possible, the fire strikes, the Mora orbs. That's how you get this giant amount of ult charge. And simply due to that miscommunication and the fact that I still tunnel vision try to reflect these things even after my diva ate them, it really prevented me from getting the impact I wanted on first and stopped me from getting potential plays. Now, going into the second point, I'm going to manage to make a really insane play here, but the first point that I really want to emphasize to each and every Genji player is patience. Notice how I go in, I'm just poking, helping my team, trying to look for that playmaking potential. Genji can do a lot of burst damage, and between his reflect, his dash, and potentially his blade, these plays can come up mid-fight, and I'm simply looking for an opportunity. When I'm reloading, I'm taking the high ground, I'm going into the enemy with intent, and I really go hard on this Hanzo here, but because he gets bubbled, I just simply back up, and I want to reset with my team. My Ryan manages to get a pretty nice shatter, and I look for an opportunity to push in really aggressively. I see the enemy is low, and I want to get all these staggers, so all this is simply cleanup. Notice how I never really overextended. Just like my play on the Hanzo when he got bubbled, I simply regrouped. I didn't have my dash, I didn't have my reflect. What I wanted to do is make sure that I take every single fight with my full ability, look for an advantage situation to go in. And that's the second part about this, is you really just want to go in when you have advantage. You don't have to force anything with Genji. If you're patient, opportunities will arise, and if they don't, you can always find an opportunity next fight or a couple fights from now. As long as you don't feed, there's always going to be potential for you to make more plays later on. Now, you notice here, me and my team are trying to make a stand, preventing the enemy from taking second. They have one person pushing cart, but they're vastly pushing up on my Rhine. I'm trying to put some pressure into them, while at the same time kind of zoning them away, and I'm looking for an opportunity. I notice this Rhine gets really aggressive, and I try to dash into him. Unfortunately, because of his peel, I can't burst him down. Now, many of you might be actually seeing a pattern with a lot of the ways that I play a ton of these team fights, and it's really just the same way. I'm poking from a distance, I'm in that lethal zone of attack. I'm really in that sweet spot to where if I ever see an opportunity, I'm already there to burst down an enemy. I mean, Genji can easily burst about 140 damage out of nowhere, so if an enemy has taken any sort of damage, if you're close enough to the enemy, you can burst them down. And then you notice, even though we lost a main tank in that fight, I actually managed to turn that fight with the help of my team, simply by putting in constant pressure and being ready to follow up on any damage my teammates make or any opportunities that they create. So now that we won that fight, I have no ult charge, so the biggest thing that I want to do right now is try to get as much ult charge as possible. That's really what you should be trying to do in your downtime, especially when the enemy is pursuing you. You want to put in as much pressure on the enemy and try to get as much ult charge as you possibly can without feeding. Notice I just spam down this hallway. I'm looking for value reflex to get off. I'm looking for ways to spam in damage. I see that this Ryan is caught out, and I'm just putting in constant damage into him. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be putting in constant pressure. I'm already at 46% ult charge, and I had nothing. And due to my Mei making a huge play here, look at me just spamming these shurikens. Look at how fast I got this ultimate. Now, I really want to break down how I really mess up here. First of all, I use my ultimate in an already won fight. Second off, I get really overconfident. I thought the fact that I had Dragonblade here could allow me to win this fight out really quickly, could make something flashy. I almost tried to force impact here. The problem is I got shut down because I dashed right into a Mora, a Hanzo, and a McCree. I didn't even use my reflect there. That's something that's really important. When you're using your ultimate, even if it's fast, you need to develop a game plan first off. I should have used my reflect. I should have went in with my team, or I should have not invested Dragonblade at all, because honestly, having Dragonblade for this next fight would have been really powerful. Because I tried to force through impact without thinking it out first, it led to a blade that got no impact and no value, and that's really what you want almost none of your blades to be. You want each and every blade to have a consistent amount of value, and some of your blades you want to simply hard carry your whole team, and this was definitely not one of those examples. Now this next fight is another example of a fight where I really don't make any plays. I'm simply just existing. But the thing about it is, it's really important that I'm putting in constant pressure, building up that precious ult charge like I've talked about before. But even more important than that, as long as I'm not dead, I'm alive and actively doing damage, the enemy has a certain amount of pressure on them. The McCree has to be that much tighter with his positioning. The Lucio has to back off if he's a certain health total. Just my existence alone puts a certain amount of pressure on the enemy, and the fact that they respect the amount of damage I can potentially do means that as long as I don't die, I'm putting in constant pressure, I can help my team secure these kills. And when my team was the one that made most of these plays for me, just my presence alone put a giant amount of pressure on the enemy, which actually turns into value and prevents the enemy from pushing up too aggressively on my team because they know that I will punish them for it. So now, due to the enemy ulting us and a couple of small misplays, we actually managed to get pushed all the way to the 3rd point, but we barely managed to hold here simply due to spawn advantage. But now we need to capture basically all 3 points in order to win this game, and I'm going to show you exactly how I roll out on this first point. This is going to be breaking down the play that you saw at the very beginning of the video, and I'm going to slow-mo it, break down my thought process so that you can pop off and make plays on Genji just like this in your games. So the first thing that you need to see here is how I match the tempo of my team. You notice how my team is pushing up really aggressively. I want to be pushing up with them. So, and right here's the deciding moment where I can make a play. And this is something that I really want to point out to you as a player. The players I'm playing against right now are either extremely high masters, top 500, or Grandmaster players. And because of the pressure me and my team put on them, they use their abilities aggressively into us. And I use this as an opportunity to really make a play here. And that's something that Genji can do. The more lethal you are, the more pressure that's on the enemy, the more likely the enemy is going to mess up and play right into your reflect, which is essentially what they do here. And the big reason I mention their rank here is if I can get players of this caliber to mess up, make a misplay, or play into my reflect over and over again, you can do this in your games. The more aggressive you are, the more lethal you are, the more you grind your mechanics and take proper positioning, you know, that sweet spot range where you can pressure enemies with your dash, you can put in shurikens, things like that into the enemy. That is how you get your enemy to play into your reflect over and over again. I've gotten tons of ult charge with my reflect this game, and right here I managed to wipe the entire team with the help of my team plus my reflect. I managed to make an insanely strong play here and build up my ultimate in the first fight, and we take this point right off the bat. Now, going into this next fight, I'm simply trying to poke the enemy, trying to build up that ult charge. I really want to leverage the advantage that we had on first, and I want to try and build up my ult charge as quickly as possible. Unfortunately for us, our Reinhardt gets walled off, and that kind of stops a lot of our momentum right there. That being said, I already have my ultimate, and I have it faster than anyone on the enemy team or my team. The problem is I want to wait for my Ana. If I had nano here, I would already fire it away, but I'm really simply just waiting for her to get nano before I try to make this play. But it's because it's easier for me to get a team wipe if I get nano, and that's really what I'm waiting for. I see that she gets it here, and I actually dash up to try to get it, and unfortunately for the Ana, she doesn't. Now, there's still a few things that I do right here. I managed to bait out the flash, but unfortunately, due to the immortality field, the sick movement by the Mora, and the jukes by the enemy, plus their graviton and their Mora ult, unfortunately, this was a failure. Now, I don't know if I would have been able to turn this better if I would have got the nano right off the bat, but either way, I did the best that I could, and maybe it would have been better for me to just simply ult to the enemy team earlier, because I had ultimates before anyone else, and maybe I could have made a more proactive play that way. That being said, you as a Genji player are going to have to make that call a lot of times. Sometimes it's better to wait for your team. Sometimes it's better to have a really quick blade. And you have to decide what call you're going to make. It would have been a lot easier for me to make that call if I was accurately ult tracking, but in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about it, which is something I definitely should have been doing. And it probably would have helped my decision a lot more if I knew that the enemy didn't have any ultimates. That might have made me err on the side of being proactive and aggressive with my Dragonblade. Now, coming back to the second point, I need to ask you something as a viewer. What makes you decide how fast you should be going as a Dragonblade user? The thing that you need to understand is the faster you go, the harder it is for enemies to punish you, but the higher the margin of error is for your blading. So, here's my general rule of thumb. First of all, you're going to become faster as you practice more. And that's true, and there's going to be a comfortable speed that you can always blade, and you can always blade that way. That being said, if you take a look at this play right here, notice how slow I'm blading. You might ask yourself, why are you blading so slow? You have nano blade, you could just go in, go really fast. Well, the thing is, what I want to do here is systematically pick apart my targets. I'm not afraid of them killing me or doing damage to me. I don't see any abilities that can CC me like Sleep Dart or Roadhog Hook or anything like that. I'm going to take my time here because I'm not afraid, and I know that I should just clean out these targets. The only way that I actually mess this up is if I somehow dash into oblivion and miss the whole bulk of the enemy, which can happen if you try to go too fast. So, something that's important is there will be scenarios where you have to go fast. You've all seen those. Those Necro-style blades where he goes a million miles an hour. Those are extremely hard to replicate, and even if you can, you don't want to have to do it all the time. The problem is there is a failure rate. Now, you will have to go extremely fast if you're playing around a lot of things and you don't have the time to. Let's say you're going up against multiple enemies and they have tons of CC ability. Something like Ana, something like McCree, something like Sigma. The only way to outplay all these things is by going incredibly fast. And that's when you have to decide for yourself just how fast should you try to execute this blade. The riskier the blade, the faster that you probably need to go. And if you can't go that fast successfully, you probably shouldn't be blading at all. Now notice here, this is a perfect example of the antithesis of that, which is a relatively slower blade, a methodical blade. I'm picking apart my target, I'm killing one target after the next, and I managed to get a really easy 4K because there's no pressure on me to do it any faster than this. Now if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content just like it, definitely go check out GameLeap.com. Our Genji section in particular is the most stacked section on the entire website, and we have tons of in-depth Genji VOD reviews so that you can see firsthand from Grandmasters and top 500s their point of view, their decision making, that can help you become that Grandmaster Genji player as quickly as possible. You don't even have to take my word for it. GameLeap.com offers a 10-day money-back guarantee, so come check us out risk-free in the links here. If you like the content, please smash the like button. It's a way to support the channel for free, and we really appreciate it. Any questions or video ideas that you want to see, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I could do a video like this for Diva. I could do it about another DPS or even a support. Just let me know, and I will be sure to make it. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.